Thursday. And as y'all know, Lawyer Henderson TV podcasts do go live on Thursdays. How's everybody? We're checking the live feed on YouTube, checking the live feed on Blog Talk Radio. Okay, let's check the feed here on Instagram. Instagram is slow playing here. Instagram is slow playing. They're catching actually connections on Instagram is up with us here on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. And man, we got a good topic today. We got a great topic, fam. You know, hit that thumbs up button if you're on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up button if you're on YouTube. Share, subscribe, family. Share and subscribe. How is everyone on Instagram? Letting everybody know that we are in the building. And we're going to basically be live here, letting you know that we are in the building. And one of the things that we have to do is that we have a lot of, we have a good conversation here to talk about. And I had basically wanted to basically shout out a lot of people here. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. And I did a commentary about Hollywod a long time ago. And what we were talking about is how Hollywood like to change up our heroes and she-roles. They like to basically get these foreign actors. Now, like I said, all due respect to Daniel Kaluuya and others, Cynthia Erivo and others, I just feel like Hollywood could do better in casting. I mean, like for instance, when Denzel did Malcolm X, that was per great casting. You understand? That was great casting. When Denzel did Malcolm X, that was a classic. It was a classic because you had a foundational Black American doing the actual the movie itself. So that was important. What is going on with this computer? Hold on, guys. So, all right. So, but today we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about, let's talk about the ideal as far as what we have in the movie that we're talking about. Hollywood had basically got some new films out. Of course, we have man, did I bring the list over here? Hold on, guys. Hit that thumbs up button while I find this. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Let's see. So we have, of course, Judas the Messiah. That's a film talking about the story of Fred Hampton. and I did try to reach out to his son. Let's see here. We also have Jennifer. I'm sorry. Let's see. Here we go. We have Billie Holiday. That movie basically is also out. You see, we're talking about Hollywood and their crisis of casting here. We have also Aretha Franklin biopic. Now, the biopic To Respect was very, very good. I mean, she wanted, before her death, she did wanted Jennifer Hudson to play her. And Jennifer Hudson did a good job in Respect, the movie. But Genius, the Aretha Franklin official, Genius Aretha, the TV series played by Cynthia Erivo. That right there was a foolish and it was asinine for the white powers to be to basically say, oh, yeah, you see, I know that the showrunners, they were light skinned and stuff like that, but it was asinine to have Cynthia Erivo. She was already asinine to have her play in Harriet. That was one problem. But to have Cynthia Erivo then to come and play Aretha Franklin after we just had Jennifer Hudson to play um, Aretha Franklin, it was just like a slap in the face for Black people here in America. Why basically do Hollywood keep doing this? That's the question that we have to have. Hit that thumbs up. The number to call in is 516-418-5867. 516-418-5867. And there is an issue with heroes and sheroes. Basically, our heroes and sheroes in the Black community, we are pretty much very, very, very careful as to who we try to get to play our heroes and sheroes. And one of the problems that we had in the past harkens back way to Zoe Saldana, or Sadada, however you say her last name. Zoe Saldana playing Nina Simone. India Arie was the first to make it a point to suggest that how did Hollywood cast Zoe Saldana as Nina Simone in the film? Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about Hollywood Black casting problem, and Hollywood do have a Black casting problem. Family, they have a huge Black casting problem. Hit that thumbs up button. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, family. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. All right, so that's what we're talking about on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. Hit that thumbs up button, and we have to make it official by playing our little music here. If it will come on. Hollywood is also reporting that longtime conservative talk show host Rush Limbaugh had died yesterday at the age of 70 years old. Rush Limbaugh, basically a conservative talk show host. One of the biggest problems that we, of course, that we had in, as far as Rush Limbaugh is that basically, man, he was real right conservative about the Democrats this and Democrats that, which I had no problem with. But one of the problems with Rush Limbaugh is that he reminds you of those white men back in the days of J. Edgar Hoover. He was real conservative. Basically, Trump gave him a medal or some type of medal in his last State of the Union address before he left office. The article in the Atlantic is also talking about this as well as another voice outlets that's talking about Rush Limbaugh. Remember, he making fun of 13-year-old at that point 13-year-old Chelsea Clinton, the daughter of the Clintons, Bill and Hillary Clinton. But the Atlantic goes on to say that as a radio broadcaster, Rush Limbaugh, who died yesterday, was a great success. He pioneered his genre, attracted millions of listeners for several decades, and grew fantastically wealthy. Many good people were used to his daily company, something unimaginable to critics who heard only the most audience excerpts from his broadcasts. Never the more typical segment if you're a Limbaugh fan who feels like you lost a friend. My condolences and best to stop reading here, of course. As a proponent of conservatism in America, Limbaugh was a failure who is in his later years abandoned the project of advancing a positive agenda, accumulating in his alignment with a vulgar style and populist anti-leftness of Donald Trump. Character no longer matter. Budget deficits no longer matter. Free trade no longer matter. Nepotism no longer matter. Lavishes praise on foreign dictators no longer matter. All the matter was owning the libs in a culture war, in part to avenge a deeply felt sense of agreement. Limbaugh and Trump were alike, like in attaining great wealth and political influence while still talking and seeming to feel as though society was stacked against guys like them. You see, so Limbaugh basically did a lot of things that far right extreme people will talk about. He would basically say some just foolish and absurd things. He was just far right. He was far conservative, and they're reporting, of course, that he dead. He is now dead. The obituaries and the commemoration, many right-leaning commentators are crediting Limbaugh with the advanced movement conservatism, as if he was William F. Buckley Jr. of the baby boomer generation. That certainly had it felt in the 1990s when I would hear him in a car with my grandparents back then before Fox News. No one at the right was popular with the public. Okay, so he was around even before Fox News came and took over this conservative talk that we have. You see, these people are only basically relevant when you have, of course, black people out here talking about we want to conserve things. They're only relevant because of certain types of things within Democrats. And of course, as we have always said, conservatives like to talk like the grassroots, like us. They like to talk with like us. So that's why a lot of people think that we're conservative because they feed off our talking points. But we don't spew the hatred filled language like people like Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity. All of them is extreme conservatives, and basically all of those people who basically was who invaded the Capitol building. A lot of them listen to people like Rush Limbaugh, Fox News, and all of your white ring conservative talk shows. And so a lot of people are trying now to figure out, well, who will be the next person to take Limbaugh's place? Who would be that radio show? Now, there's some people out there like Ben Shapiro and others. Sean Hannity is still there. He haven't kicked the bucket. But this man has basically been dividing us for years in this country. But at the same time, he had critics, and of course, he had people who liked him, who listened to him faithfully all the time. But you didn't know what was going to come out of his mouth, kind of like Trump or whatever. So, but anyway, but that's he basically kicked the bucket. You know what I'm saying? All right, so we're still talking about Hollywood black casting problem, and the problem is that you have films like Billie Holiday, right? You had the biopic of Billie Holiday, and I want to talk a little bit about Billie Holiday because Billie Holiday, she was a writer back in the day. She was targeted by J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover did not only target the new Black Panther Party, but he often also targeted musicians. And Billie Holiday was one of those people that he targeted. He actually, the movie is correct where he basically he would show up at Billie Holiday's concerts because during the civil rights movement, you try to at least try to get black people to empower themselves, to stand up and stuff like that. So some of the songs was geared towards that. So that's why you have people like Billie Holiday and Ray Charles and other people who was really writers, Aretha Franklin, who we'll talk about as well. And so that's the reason why we are very sensitive in the Black community as who play our heroes and sheroes. We cannot allow certain people like Cynthia Erivo and Daniel Kaluuya to continue to play the same people in our biopic. We basically have to just ignore Hollywood. And I'm glad MGM, which was a long distribution film studio of mine that went bankrupt in the 1990s and in the year 2000, they actually did the biopic for Aretha Franklin's biopic. All these other companies, they're working with production houses where you got these white boys who are Jewish people coming from other countries and stuff like that. So they'll come over here like Elon Musk, and they're able to get a lot of financing. And then before you know it, they're basically, you know, in the movie, producing industry or the car industry, other types of industries. So they're able to come over here capitalize. Like a lot of people talking about Vlad TV and how he disrespect Minister Farrakhan, and then people talking about, well, we're going to just ban him. He's basically out of the picture. We don't want nothing to do with Vlad. But but it's too late. You made him a millionaire already. So you can't cancel a white dude that you've already made a millionaire. He's going to still find black people who want that attention. And you got a lot of black attention every time the white daddy come knock on the door. Ooh, 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 I want that attention. So they're going to basically still mess with Vlad, okay, TV. But no, back to the story. So we're talking here about these biopics that Hollywood produce. And Tone Tonks is on, and he basically said that he did not like the movie Jonas, the Messiah, which is the Fred Hampton story. So he's talking about that now. I only seen the trailer. I haven't seen the whole entire film. They're doing a Zoom talk, according to my brother, with Fred Hampton Jr. right now. Um, I couldn't be on that Zoom talk because I have to basically do the show, so there's no way for me to do anything now unless they call into the show or on Instagram. But I do have his information, and I want to reach out to him myself. But and I'll be happy to look at that Zoom call. But I wanted to get Fred Hampton Jr.'s reaction to the film after he saw this. In fact, I reached out to Fred Hampton Jr. before he basically they did the film to try to get his reaction as to what he thought about, and I guess if I could bring him on, to what he thought about the ideal of his father being played by Daniel Kaluuya, which is not a foundational Black American, and wanted to get his taste of after he saw the film, what he thought. Because I mean, they murdered Fred Hampton while he was asleep, while he was in his underwear, and he was pregnant. I mean, the Fred Hampton's singers wife was pregnant with him, with Fred Hampton Jr. When the FBI came and stormed in. It was one of the most vicious and the most bitch made attacks you can ever basically go inside somebody's home and do. It was really caught him off guard, if you will. But the Black Panther Party was getting targeted by J. Edgar Hoover and all these people back in the 60s. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. In the 60s, if you look back into that era, it was really, really problematic then. White people back then just did not have no sense of regard, sense of respect for the civil rights movement. They killed Dr. King, then blamed it on and notice they always blame it on a poor white person like James Earl Ray or something like that. I think when they had the Capitol insurrection last month, remember they blamed some old homeless guy who 3 weeks they said slept in his trunk. Did y'all read that story that slept in his trunk? Excuse me. I don't know if y'all read that story, but that's what they were saying, that he had explosives and stuff like that. So white society liked to pick on its white poor to take the downfall and not really get these people who really have all of the power, the ammunition, the people who have the money. They basically walk without any kind of charges, and they basically walk with any kind of repercussion whatsoever. So we have to watch stuff like that, and that's the reason why Dr. King's family basically they already knew that James Earl Ray did not kill him. So just things of that nature. But back to the casting, okay, of these Hollywood um, of our Hollywood heroes and sheroes, I like to call them. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, like and subscribe, family. Go ahead, hit hit the like button if you're listening on. I'm sorry, if you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, go ahead and subscribe. If you listen on Instagram and on YouTube. But I wanted to talk about Jennifer Hudson's Aretha Franklin biopic, Respect, that delayed by another 7 months. So they was delaying the Respect or whatever, a movie. But like I said, I like the idea that the film was released through MGM because before MGM went bankrupt, and I'm writing a book, of course, on the movie studios as well, you will find that MGM basically knew how to, in its days, it knew how to tell successful stories. Like if you look at the James Bond movies are told very good. That's not to have nothing on Paramount, Sony, Lionsgate, or all these other studios. But a lot of times you will see that MGM basically is one of the studios that gets it right. And even with Warner Brothers also could get in Universal, they sometimes get it right too. But with Universal, they hire these producers basically who like to, of course, embellish stuff like the NWA, I'm sorry, Straight Outta Compton movie. It was a lot of embellished stuff in there as well. Um, they had Easy E crying and all that stuff. They had Easy E basically getting beat down by Suge and his gang. That basically, as a fan of Easy E, that I know that didn't happen. I mean, I don't have to be in Compton to tell you that didn't happen. In fact, BG Knockout and Gangsta Dre said that it happened, and they rolled with Easy E. So you had a lot of things that the Universal producers will do. People in Sony, the film industry is known to embellish stuff. There was even talks that Malcolm X film in 1992, directed by Spike Lee, rather, and started Denzel, that some of the stuff in that film was embellished. Anytime that the white Jews are basically making these biopics, you got to really, really, really think about something. The things that you have to think about is they're going to tell a real story. And that was really the issue here. But why was there a cause and delay of Aretha Franklin? Now, Aretha Franklin, she was a writer. Before she died, according to sources, She chose Jennifer Hudson to play her in the film. She wanted Jennifer Hudson to play her. She would never ever would have cast any damn Cynthia Erivo, who is now have done is doing the television series of Aretha Franklin. This is just downright foolish. Now, remember, we talked about, of course, we talked about Cynthia Erivo and Harriet Tubman. And of course, as y'all see the Harriet Tubman film, it was all off. I mean, we had a lot of commentary about that film. It was basically just thrown together. It was it made no sense. You know what I'm saying? They had it where the white dude was not the person who you were fighting against. Even though white people at the time were shooting and enslaving us, it was this black man that they had the villain. It was all just it was over the place. It just didn't make sense. It was a bunch of crap. They basically lied throughout the whole film, and they just needed to give it a name. That's all they needed to do. So every time you have Cynthia Erivo playing in some stuff, just beware, okay, that the film itself is not going to be authentic. And white people, specifically Jewish people, they like to come in and change up a lot of things. And we talked about this before. They basically like to you know to do all this stuff, have black people in these movies and acting a fool, acting a clown, acting silly, got doing all kinds of stuff they themselves would never ever allow within their culture. If somebody went and basically make fun of these Jewish people and have like beards all over the place and hats and stuff like that, they will immediately get upset and start boycotting all of this old stuff. But they like to do that to black society. They'll give you a budget and they'll put a black, you look at the script and it's all over the place. You know what I'm saying? You got people who should not be playing in the film. They playing in the film like Cynthia Erivo. They're all over the place and they're casting. That's the crisis with it. They're all over the place. Okay, so let's read though People's Magazine at their article on Jennifer Hudson. It says that Jennifer Hudson's highly anticipated film Respect has been delayed once again. On Tuesday, MGM announced that it would be pushing back the premiere of the upcoming biopic about Aretha Franklin until August 2021. The film had originally been scheduled to premiere in August of 2020, but was first pushed back to January 2021 at the start of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. Directed by Lyles Tommy, Respect tracks Franklin. Come on, hold on, guys. Respect tracks Franklin life as she goes from a child singer in her father's church choir to an international superstar. Franklin actually handpicked Hudson, 39, to portray her on screen before her death in 2018. So she basically, Aretha Franklin knew that nobody could play her but Jennifer Hudson. You understand? She didn't want nobody. If she basically wanted Jennifer Hudson to play her in the movie, what makes you think that she basically wanted Cynthia Erivo to play her in a TV series? You understand? It just don't make sense what Hollywood is doing. It just basically it comes to the point of downright disrespect. That's all it is. But it goes on to say that MGM premiered the official trailer for the film in June after Hudson's performance of Young, Gifted, and Black at the virtual BET Awards. The video gives fans a glimpse of Hudson as the Queen of Soul, from her electrifying stage performance to her work and impact on the civil rights movement. You got to disturb the peace when you can't get no peace, Hudson said as Franklin and the teaser. So we knew that Aretha Franklin was very bold back in the civil rights movement. She was, like I said, these artists like her, Ray Charles, all these people, basically, their singing was their influence as far as their what their stance was in the civil rights movement. Because back in the 1960s, of course, it was all like I said, black folks was dealing with all kinds of stuff. We were being sicked up on by dogs, and we've been water hosed by the fire department. These canines, biting off the breasts of black women. So it was an era, of course, where the musicians also came in and had to play a role in certain types of performance that they would book Ray Charles on, for instance. He wouldn't basically go into it. He would, but no, if you've seen his biopic, it details a little bit of that. So the musicians back then, they pretty much was a part of the civil rights movement. It was also said that Sam Cooke was going to finance the the coalition, if you will, when Malcolm X and Martin said that they were going to start working together. Sam Cooke would say, "Oh, okay, I'm going to put money into that." So that's why he became dangerous. And they later said that he died of some prostitute set him up. So you got to really, really look at the civil rights movement, and you just can't study it. You see, you just can't put Dr. King, like this is February, supposed to be Black History Day or whatever. You cannot just look at just Dr. King. And you got to look at Dr. King. He couldn't have done it with Malcolm X. But you have to also look at the musicians at that time that basically also had their little movements within the civil rights movement. Okay. So it goes real deeper than that. Okay. And so, Aretha Franklin, she was a writer back in her day. She basically did not allow white supremacy at that time to do a lot of things. And she was almost targeted, but most importantly, Billie Holiday was targeted the most during the civil rights era. She basically did songs that that basically could have started a riot. And they told her, they said, look, you better not perform certain types of songs, and she did anyway. She was not afraid. And so started to basically monitor her. It was just all over the place. You know what I'm saying? That's what they did to the black artists back in the days. The FBI was brought in to do that. They were not concerned about real law enforcement. In fact, a law enforcement agency when they first started the FBI. You understand? But it came to be a law enforcement agency after that because he started to basically just do stupid stuff. And then he, like I said, he started targeting everybody during the Black Panther Party, Fred Hampton, all of these other people, your great people, your musicians, and your black radicals at that time. And so he just created, and he was the FBI and J. Edgar Hoover mostly focused on the Black Panther Party because they were doing the things back in the 60s and 70s in which the government refused to do, like they would provide free meals to the inner city's youth or whatever. And so J. Edgar Hoover came along and said that they are the biggest threat to this government. And I wanted to get his son on, Fred Hampton's Jr.'s son, on and talk about this new film about his father. And we're going to be talking, of course, about the Black Panthers and why they was very much, very, important during the 60s and the 70s. And this is one of the reasons, of course, why Asante Shakur is still in Cuba in exile. And the white supremacist FBI over here, they are still upset that she fled to Cuba. And you know that Cuba does not have an extradition treaty with the United States. So she is over there at 70 years old, and they're still after her. You see, white supremacy never forget who they after. But a lot of you all in the black media, y'all made a point. Okay, a white officer got shot and killed by white supremacists who basically bombarded and they let loose all out on the Capitol. A white female got killed, shot as well, and yet you don't have the white conservatives out here going, okay, well, where's the justice for this officer? Okay, why are we going after Asante Shakur and the two people who is dead? Nobody is talking about trying to get and find who shot them. You see, this double standard that we often see in the American government, that is what a lot of people were talking about in the black media. And I'm glad that you all are talking about that. But to basically continue our discussion here, okay, and continue our discussion on why Hollywood have a problem with casting foundational Black Americans. And as Tariq Nasheed pointed out, this is a way for them to undermine us. Okay. As Dr. Claude Anderson points out, we are a special people. We are very unique because of the things that happened to us in America. It basically set us apart from other types of Black folks and immigrants as a whole. So, white America and white supremacy, what they have been doing is they've been undermining the ideal of doing anything for Black people. This is where you get your benign and neglect. This is where you get other types of things. And it goes all the way back into the 1960s. See, we had a plan, like I said in other commentaries, during Reconstruction. Okay, we were working with whites there, but at the Democrats at that time, basically, like I said, they started to enforce white supremacy on us. Okay, now that you basically look at what Hollywood is up to, remember what I told you here. I did a commentary on how the Hollywood conglomerates started back in the 1960s. Remember, when we had the commentary about Fox, William Fox, who was a Hungarian Jew. Okay, the Jews came over in the 1960s at the same time of the Civil Rights Movement. And so Black people was pushed out, and here come other folks who has abandoned their own nations and countries, who was able, just like I said today, like you got people like Elon Musk coming from talking about he's a white South African or whatever. But anyway, they come over to other places and they're able to build up these big conglomerates. Okay, William Fox, his father, of course, was in the oil business. How did he basically were able to raise money and funding now to build a conglomerate that we know now to be Fox Films or 20th Century Fox or Fox Searchlight, all of your Foxes, you see. So we have the white Jewish people saying, oh, well, you should not be anti Semitic and all of this stuff. But yet we have them basically undermining, undermining our heroes and sheroes. If you look, of course, at a lot of people who see these films, whether it be Harriet, whether it be what's this film? Um, that Daniel Kaluuya is in now, Jonas the Messiah. If even by looking at the trailer, you know these films basically was written and scripted by either Black people or white people who basically did not get any kind of advice from the family. They would basically probably talk to the family, but they probably would not use the advice of the family. How then, if you as a Black person How is it? No, let me ask a white person. Of course, a few of you are listening now. If you basically was, let's say for instance, if we had like a person, a black person like myself or other, and let's say that rewrote a script on, let's say, General Foster, okay? If we were to put him into a film and wrote about him as a black person, how would the your main white conservative media thought about that? Okay, how would basically what? How would they react to it? Okay, if we were to do a film on, let's say, George Washington or Abraham Lincoln or any other type of white person who white people call heroes and sheroes, how would you feel by us writing a script and undermining what those people did for a country or a nation or whatever in society? How would that make you feel if we got that wrong and we cast some Asian person to play General Forster, or we had some Asian person say cast as George Washington? Wouldn't that make you feel kind of like, man, I don't want to go see that. It's wrong. George Washington and General Forster, they would have never done it. Nothing that that film had described is kind of foolish for y'all to even put this out. You would have, even with those white people or with white, heroes and sheroes of white folks that we know that they would really get upset about, you could not find no financing as black people from any studio who would want that to be released. Okay? Because in films, oftentimes, white men often like, of course, for them to basically show themselves as saving the world, saving the universe, conquering something at the end of the story where everybody hugs and cheer them on. You understand? So it is only fair for us in Black Hollywood to look at our heroes and sheroes and say we should be basically, if the family is in agreement, to say that this person should play, uh, you know, Aretha Franklin and his television series, and not Cynthia Erivo. It shouldn't have been Cynthia Erivo playing in the film, playing in and Harriet. We should have had Viola Davis playing Harriet Tubman. And if you had these producers who did Harriet, they shouldn't have really used her name. Okay. They should have basically said, oh, this is Hattie Sue or something like that. Okay. Not a story by you putting a black woman on there who really basically changed our society as black people. And this is the reason why we are very upset about what Hollywood is doing. They are basically trying to undermine the truth and what happened when these great people of ours did something amazing in history, did something amazing in our society, and even in American society, where now you see them desecrating and disrespecting and basically trying to embellish lies and manipulate things as well. And Hollywood and the white Jewish people, they sit back and they laugh at that because they know that black people do not have the power to stop them. We'll go look at any film as long as it's entertaining. Okay. Before the COVID 19 virus hit, I think that the average movie ticket was around 20 something dollars, I think, you know? And that means that the theaters were making their money, but when COVID hit, everything started going to digital. But the problem happens to be is that they're trying to put into our mind, this is what happened. This is what this person is really about or was about. And basically, they don't get the entire story, down pat. It basically, every person, like for instance, I talked earlier about Nina Simone. And what did we say about Nina Simone? Okay, what did India Ari say about her? How is it then was Zoe Saldana, however you pronounce her name, how was she cast for that film? What was the point of casting her in the film? You see, Hollywood like to undermine, actors who really could could portray us as foundational Black Americans very well. It is not that they cannot find somebody to play these actors. The ideal is it is just to basically just like I said earlier to disrespect us, okay, to basically undermine us, to say that we are basically going to write and we'll release films about your heroes and sheroes. But let's embellish the script. Let's say in Harriet that it wasn't a white slave master, that this black man, he's the one that did this. He was the dangerous one in the Harriet situation. Harriet wasn't fighting against these white supremacists, these racists back then. Oh no, she was fighting against that black man, and she fell in love with the white dude. You see, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to twist the the narrative of what our heroes and sheroes were about, and that's the reason why we have actually in the black media continued to call them out. We talked there about the Billie Holiday story, of course. We talked about how she was a trailblazer at that time. And Lee Daniels is okay, even though that I do question certain types of things about Lee Daniels. But he did direct it. He did direct the Billie Holiday story, and which is like I said, it's okay. But I think Audra Day, I think that's her name. I think she did a great job in doing the Billie Holiday story. Okay, because what we have to understand is that, see, if we're producing and financing our own films, for instance, Hollywood will not be able to get these bought and paid for Negroes within the studios or some producers on their own production company to basically say, oh, we're going to have this done and we're going to have this done to change the narrative of the whole entire film. You see, and these are projects, of course, that if they were done wrong, me personally, I wouldn't want to own a film like this. Like, for instance, I wouldn't have wanted to own a Harriet movie right now. You understand? And the reason why I wouldn't want to own a Harriet film is because it was not done right. Okay. Um, so that's the problem with that. Let me see here. So Tone Talks is talking about how he did not like Judas the Messiah, the Fred Hampton story. Judas the Messiah, the Fred Hampton story. And again, no shocker there. No shocker there. You see, in these films, the trailer will get you to think that you're going to see something that is going to be epic. That's what the trailer gets you to think. The trailer gets you to think, oh, this film here, just because they're saying some revolutionary stuff, oh man, I got to go see that. And so what they'll do is they'll fix the trailer up where it's talking like the person that they're trying to basically, um, portray. But when you see the film itself, it is downright just all over the place. There's no merit. There's nothing historically of what the person did in their real lifetime. It's all over the place. Okay, but let's get into the story of Jonas the Messiah. And up Prox News or Rox News is where we're going to basically use to critique the film now just coming out here, the Fred Hampton story. Judas and the Black Messiah. It is a tough movie to criticize because not only 1969 murder of Black Panther's chairman Fred Hampton, a relative win just for exiting. It is also does many things right. Some have been critical of the decision to cast 31-year-old Daniel Kaluuya as 21-year-old Chicago Panthers chairman Fred Hampton and 29-year-old Lakeith Stanfield as then 20-year-old Bill O'Neill. Maybe that fair on paper. Maybe that's fair on paper and doesn't do justice to the youth of the movement. But it also hard to argue with the performance as an electrifying as Kaluuya or with casting two generational talents in a chronicle of an iconic event. By and large, it is a film of fantastic performance and steering compositions. Now, Daniel Kaluuya, we talked about him in the other films. Remember when he was in the first one? What's that film that he played in? Um, um, he played in this one film first, and they had this non-foundational black woman, and she's married to that white dude that used to she used to he used to play on, I think, the Party of Five or something like that. He played on some old white TV show. But Daniel Kaluuya um, um, basically had been criticized before about him playing our heroes or playing into a film where he supposedly have dealt with racism and discrimination in the society. Okay. And we are still trying to figure out why Daniel Kaluuya is then cast up on as playing a foundational Black American. We're still trying to figure out. Hollywood and the producers will often say, well, he's a good actor and we had to choose him because we didn't have nobody else to play. That's bull crap. Okay. Of course, we saw Daniel Kaluuya in the film Get Out, which was a great film. Remember, I did a commentary on Get Out. Remember, I told you what that was about. And like I said, there's nothing against Daniel Kaluuya as a good actor, as a great actor. It's just that we will want to see a foundational Black American to play our heroes. That's it. Are we saying that he should not be playing in Black movies? No. What we're saying is whites white people like to undermine what we feel about the films, and basically keep in mind that if we doing some stupid stuff, like you got Kevin Hart, he'll do a little stupid stuff. He'll make fun of his daughter, call his daughters hoes and stuff like that. White people like to see that kind of stupid, crazy stuff. They like for us to talk that crap about our own, sons and daughters and stuff like that. And Daniel Kaluuya basically, like I said, I don't take nothing away from him. He's a great actor. Okay, he's a wonderful, terrific actor. Okay, but he's not from here. He's from London. But when he played in Queen and Slim, okay, when he played in Queen and Slim, okay, he played in a role that suggests that he was dealing with all kinds of discrimination in London, like the same that we deal with as Black people, discrimination in the United States. Okay. And then if you look at the movie Queen and Slim, as we did a commentary on that as well, they were doing some stupid stuff, in that film. Like the young kid, he went and shot the Black police officer and stuff like that. And then you had another scene where the white clerk did not want to give them gas at some point, and he let them hold the gun and all. We wouldn't do that if we were on the run with the police. We wouldn't do all that kind of stuff. That's something that we just wouldn't do. You know, but they get these Black folks from the LGBT community, and all due respect to them, they basically is trying to just get people to hear them and trying to throw their sexuality on us, right? So what Hollywood would do is they will ignore the foundational Black Americans, and they will start basically giving roles and producing roles to these Black people who say, well, I'm not a Black person. I'm a member of the LGBT community, or I'm a man first, and all these people. You had Roly Poly Martin. He was talking that crap as well. But we have to basically look at what's going on in Hollywood, okay? See, as a filmmaker myself, they would not give me a budget because they know that I would not cast Daniel Kaluuya to play no Fred Hampton. Just wouldn't happen. I wouldn't cast Cynthia Erivo to play Harriet Tubman. Wouldn't happen, okay? Now, when it comes to Aretha Franklin, it basically, she could have chosen one of the most significant persons in Hollywood today as a female Black actress to play her. Okay. She chose a young lady who basically knew how to sing and act at the same time. Okay. So she chose, of course, Jennifer Hudson before her death. That was very important because typically the actor who is alive is going to then choose a foundational Black person. They're not going to get some Cynthia Erivo from London or Daniel Kaluuya from London. They're not going to choose them. You understand? They're not going to do that, okay? Because they know that in the United States, Black people basically, like I said, we are a unique people. So we are expecting Black people in Hollywood to basically play our heroes and sheroes because it means so much that they were going to basically try. If the project is to be good, they going to do it. You know, to a T. They're going to represent for us, and we basically rely upon them to do so. You understand? It was kind of like in a Notorious B.I.G. film. And we had George Tillman. He was a good director. I like George Tillman. Okay. Um, it was, like I said, it was almost close to Notorious Big Story. Okay. It might be some things that we disagree with, but fine. But it still had a situation as to it brought some authenticity to it. The only thing that I had a problem with, of course, is how he met Tupac. I mean, I was like, okay, wait a minute. We're having different types of situations of where Biggie and Pac met. You know what I'm saying? So that I was kind of like, okay, that was kind of crazy here. But Hollywood has a problem with casting great Black actors, and we've been seeing that this crisis for a very long time. I often want to call up the movie studios and cuss them out. They basically do this on purpose, okay? And that is just to undermine us. In fact, when we get to um, the these stories about how about this new film that is coming out about Fred Hampton. Guys, you're going to find that there are going to be some things in that film that really didn't happen. We often find, we as Black people, we're very observant. I was this white lady at today. I was at um, I was at Office Depot, and I was asking all kinds of certain types of questions. And she was like, "Oh man, you're very observant." See, they know that about us. They know that certain types of Black people, we're just observant. Not all of us. You got a lot of Black people who'll just do things without thinking, without question. They will sign over things without question. They would basically hire these people who behind closed doors are taking their money and all that stuff. That was going on. That was going on with the situation with Billie Holiday. Her Jewish, manager was stealing her money, giving her medication. Almost kind of like the story of what Clyde Davis was doing to um, Whitney Houston. But anyway, she said that she noticed that that I was observant, right? But there are certain types of Black people you just basically know that they are observant. Man, we have so many people. That's the reason why you have the Black media, the grassroots media. The grassroots media is very observant. We can look just like the white Jewish people often do, and they get with the white Gentiles and they say, well, okay, this is how we can trick the Negroes. We can Farrakhan calls this out a lot. We can basically have them acting foolish and goofy in this biopic, and we can turn this into a comedy and stuff like that. We basically, as foundational Black Americans, those of us who are very observant, we basically can pinpoint this foolery out real quick. You understand? And that's the reason why they don't like us to have a big platform. That's the reason why white people are not going to give us our reparations, because they know that we can take a little small something like we did during Reconstruction, and we can build that up. We can basically do that. But what they'll do is they'll say, oh, you niggers, y'all are lazy, y'all won't do nothing. But then they'll make sure that we don't have the resources so we can't get it done. That's what white supremacy is all about. And then trying to undermine us by having other people coming from other countries, and they're the ones who get all of these opportunities over us. See, this is just to undermine us. You see, having Black people from London to play our heroes, that's to undermine us. That's how white society and the white Jewish people and the movie studios do it, the producers and all that. They'll put a Black man or a Black woman in the front as the director and the producer, but they're behind closed doors saying, no, 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 let's switch it up. Let's have this person playing let's have this person playing Dr. King, and what we'll do is we'll have this other person, they'll play Malcolm X. And it's kind of like that TV show now that they have these four people right here. I think it's Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, and somebody else. They got this word God playing Malcolm. It's like, you see, we're very observant of that. Okay, we understand what Amazon. See, it's because of COVID-19. COVID-19 got us at home right now, and basically we're sitting here looking at these programs on Amazon Prime, and we're looking at them on Hulu. We're on Netflix. We're sitting there looking at our heroes and sheroes television series after television series, and we're like, the very observant Black people, we're like, what the hell? How did this person get cast for this particular film or TV show? See, that is just to undermine us. And you find out they're from London. You find out they're somewhere. They're a Black person who came from Nigeria. Then they moved over to London, and now they're in the United States. It's kind of like this back behind closed doors. This is what we're going to get our actors to basically showcase you Negroes, sheroes, and heroes in our films projects. You see, and that's what they're doing here. Okay, but in the film um, with Aretha, they got some people that I admire playing in there. Like they got Mary J. Blige, they got Marlon Wayans, Mark Moran. I don't know who that is. Forrest Whitaker's in there. Audrey McDonald, Titus. I hope I said it right. Titus Burgess and Heather Headley. Now, so Heather Headley is in there. Now, remember, I think that's the black woman who is playing in Coming to America, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong. But anyway, so you got Forrest Whitaker in there. And in fact, Forrest Whitaker is a great actor. Great actor. But it goes on to say that speaking to people earlier this year about the film and her relationship with Franklin, Hudson said she still feels the late star's presence. I still feel like she's in me. I really do. She said of Franklin. See, that is important, okay? Because most of these icons, the celebrities who are playing them, if they're staying here, might meet their icons here and decide that, hey, I want you to play me. And that's kind of what happened with the whole Aretha Franklin and Jennifer Hudson kind of thing. She actually met this woman. You understand? So if she's going to leave behind a biopic, she chose the woman that is going to play her because she know that woman is going to do a good job. She know that she's not going to let them down. Okay, there might be like a few exceptions to the rule when a foundational black person is chosen, but at the end of the day, it's a film that we as black people can sit and say, okay, I really enjoyed Jennifer Hudson playing Aretha Franklin. So Hollywood has a crisis, and Hollywood knows it. See, white men and women are just throwing millions of dollars into any kind of project. But since we are on a hiatus with the film theaters, they have to be very careful because they can lose their money now. Because even though they make a lot of money also in television with the advertisers, everybody knows now that online is now where the platforms are going to be moved to. So the film studios and the music industry, of course, the film studios and independent filmmakers, we now this distribution is now a big dinosaur. Okay, so you no longer basically could just have to go straight to the distribution company. Right now, you can get your film screened on a platform if you know how to go through the right channels. And so they have to be very careful because all it takes is a foundational black person like myself and others who can do a great film and be like, okay, now this is what the audience wants to see. Why? Because it's authentic. You see, we're not going to basically do our heroes and sheroes wrong here. We're going to write the story uh, to its perfection. Now, you might have to add certain types of things to it if you really didn't understand, know a lot about the person's lifestyle, and that is to be expected. But at the end of the day, we're going to give you a piece of work that is going to be a classic. We're going to give you that story that you want to set on your televisions, that you want to come inside your front room and look at it and say, yeah, I really enjoyed that. Okay. And so that's what we're dealing with now. Like I said, I have no problem with Daniel Kaluuya and Cynthia Erivo, but Hollywood is using them to undermine us. That's what I have a problem with. You understand? I have a problem with this because you got to understand that there has to be some respect up on our heroes and sheroes' name. We're taking your calls at 516-418-5867, and we understand that um, Get the thumbs up button, ladies and gentlemen. Hit that thumbs up button. Share, like, and subscribe, family. Share, like, and subscribe. We only have 19 minutes into the broadcast. We're taking your calls at 516-418-57. My brother is reporting that Fred Hampton Jr. is doing a live right now. I'm going to go watch that live. I wasn't able to catch it. We're going to basically talk a little about, go into depth with the film again. Okay? Like I said, here's what we have to understand as Black folks. Black people have not been able to follow the money. You understand? We have not been able. We suck in following the money and everything we do. We want to just be the entertainers. We want to come out there and show out in front of white mommy and white daddy. We have not basically did anything to suggest that, hey, let's see who's financing these films. You see, another article by Cinema Blend. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we are basically only using these articles for our fair use. Hit that like, subscribe, family, YouTube, Instagram. Let's get the lights up. Judas, the Black Messiah. Writers discuss Black people not being perceived as humans. Okay? Now, this is where we're taking it. See? With powerful performance by Lakeith Stanfield and Daniel Kaluuya, Judas, man, hold on. Judas and the Black Messiah is a raw look at being Black in America. Not only in the story depicted in the film True, making it that much harder to watch, but it's set in the 60s and history seems to keep repeating itself. The Lucas brothers. Now, the Lucas brothers, these are these guys, they are they came on the scene being a bunch of jokers and telling all these jokes. They're clowning and stuff like that. So I was kind of cautious when I first learned that they were basically going to be the writers. But anyway, the Lucas brothers, writers of the film's story, spoke out about African Americans not being perceived as humans. Judas, the Black Messiah, followed William O'Neill, Lakeith Stanfield, as he becomes a double agent of sorts, accepting plea deal to stay out of prison. O'Neill joins the Chicago chapter of the Black Panther Party to help the police take down and unlikely kill Chairman Fred Hampton, Daniel Kaluuya. Okay? You already see the problem with this story here, right? When I sat down with Keith and Kennedy Lucas for an interview with Simpland, the three of us discussed Hampton's age and him not being seen. You got to be Emmett Till. He is a baby and he was murdered by forces because they saw him not as a child, but they saw him as a monster. And I think that's the thing about white supremacy. Historically, is that African Americans aren't perceived as humans. We're perceived as the otherworldly thing that has to be neutralized or destroyed or controlled or contained. It's just very strange when you're like, look at what he said. Okay? There was nothing wrong with what he said. Now, keep in mind, though, the Lucas brothers basically were doing all these kinds of comedy jokes. Okay? So again, Hughley and Ricky Smiley, how they cannot keep a straight face when talking about real issues here. So the Lucas brothers will make a point here. Keith, the other brother, goes on to say, though, because their name is Keith and Kennedy Lucas. Keith goes on to say, but at the end of the day, it's all projection, right? Like you have these forces who they're the animal, the devil, the monster, and they project it onto others. They project that onto us. and we see it in the film, that J. Edgar Hoover is the monster. History is going to remember Hoover as the monster, but he saw us as the monster, and he had the power. Okay? Nothing wrong with that statement. Nothing wrong with that statement. J. Edgar Hoover basically was the real villain in the 60s. In fact, J. Edgar Hoover targeted not only the Black Panther Party, like I said earlier, he basically did a war. He basically declared a war on the Black Panthers. You understand? That's probably now why Bobby Seale is all screwed up right now. You know, Bobby Seale, he done turned the clock all the way around as he got old. And Angela Davis as well. But Fred Hampton was a 21-year-old college kid when he was fought to keep his commons community safe from being senselessly murdered. Senselessly murdered. He had a family, he was in love, but he was painted as a dangerous threat that needed to be neutralized by his own government, as the Lucas brothers shared. Okay, so we have a situation where Kenny and Keith, the writers of this film, told the truth about so far about J. Edgar Hoover. Okay, and that, like I said, they had a situation where the government in the '60s did not want there to be the coming of a new Messiah. They did not want anybody to repeat Malcolm and Martin and Fred Hampton and others. We cannot do that. We cannot allow them to have a new Black Messiah. That was their whole goal of neutralization here. So, like I said, I haven't saw the film, and I'm pretty sure that I can get this interview with Fred Hampton Jr., where I want to talk with him about what he thought about the film. Like I said, I know Tone talks is one of the things that you have to do is that you have to at least uh, try to move the white person who is really the villain away from being a villain. Like I said that earlier, what we saw in Harriet, you understand? It goes to show you that they basically, that's what it seemed like that they were doing the same thing in the casting of this film here with the Fred Hampton story. But Judas the Messiah, the writers goes on to interview themselves, and interview with that the film was depicting. But we looked at the story of Fred Hampton, and going back to what we were talking about as far as showing how somebody else, another black person, was to help to take him down. Okay, we can say that this O'Neill dude did possibly try to work with the government to take him down. Okay, we looked at that as far as even the controversy with the Malcolm. Okay, but you get this in the story. You get the not only that if these people, if O'Neill, this guy that they claim to be the person who was working with J. Edgar Hoover or any other black man, this is going to be what they're going to tell us and sell us in this film. You understand? This is what they're going to sell us. Now, you're going to look at in this project, if when you look at this project, I want people to understand here something. I want to see if I can play the trailer for those of you who's on Instagram to show you what we're talking about here, about what is going to. I want you to look at Daniel Kaluuya's interview. Hopefully, we can bring this up. Hold on here. You see, they're calling Fred Hampton a civil rights leader. You understand? That's what the white media does. They like to call every human rights leader in the black community civil rights leaders, And there's a problem with that. Um, Fred Hampton as a civil rights leader at all. That was the number one issue, of course, of making that statement, of writing the statement. Okay, that's see, you have to watch language here. That's one of the biggest problems that we have or we face under white supremacy is that we do not we do not pay attention to the wordings of the white supremacists. They basically will say words and say things to undermine the entire story. That's the reason why nobody is listening to the white media anymore, because they do not want to basically tell the truth about what goes on as far as whether it be a story, there's a situation happening in the black community, whether it's telling like whether it's doing a biopic on our leaders. It's always have to be put into a, well, let's word it this way type of situation. You understand? All right, this is loading, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on. Get the thumbs up. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share, family. Share. Go ahead and like and subscribe. I'm trying to get this. I think it's buffering here. Hold on. Watch this now. Watch it. Here we go. They're they like I said, they'll sell you on the trailer. Oh, the trailer will say, "Oh, Black Power." This right here, the trailer is what sells people. So they'll sell you on the trailer real good. The trailer will be, the trailer will look so great. It will look like it's a black movie. But then when you sit down and you watch the story, I want you to watch the entire film. And if you basically had an opportunity to really look at the story and the life of Fred Hampton, you will see, if you go back and look at the film itself, that certain types of things were embellished. And we see that, of course, like I said, in the Harriet Tubman movie, we've seen that in other films. And that's the reason, and that's our problem with Hollywood. Hollywood basically will basically claim that they were getting advice from everybody, and then they would take the story, and before you know it, it is all convoluted. It is basically washed up to be something. It really don't basically, tell the truth. No, it doesn't get down to the actual truth about what the person stood for. But when you write a script for a white person and a white person who's a hero, and you show him, like I said, saving the day, everything, the white man finally saved the day and everybody is happy, the city is back to normal. He's conquered his world. He saved the planet. Everything is good. And that person who basically killed his family, he successfully got them all. You see, white people like to write stories, of course, where they're actually satisfying their particular plot within a story. They like to basically make sure that there is a ending where the white man saved the day. But in our stories, it's all convoluted. You got to have different types of people, foreigners playing out us. You got to basically, start bringing in your LGBT stuff. You got to make it very, very much convoluted until you just say, I don't want to watch this crap no more. You understand? That's what happens in our stories. That's the reason why you cannot focus nearly on Hollywood doing anything that is going to be truthful. Okay? And I think what we have to understand though is that this is our fault, of course, because we did not really what happened is we really did not we watch this stuff. We support this stuff. You know, we like the Django Unchained. You see, we supported that crowd. You understand? We basically support stuff that is not true and not real, and basically is telling a bunch of lies. And we have no problem with spending our dollars on things. Okay, you understand? Get the lights up. Don't forget to subscribe, family. Let's see. That's why I want y'all to enroll in the University of Black Power. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Like and share, family. Like and share. Thumbs up. Like and subscribe, share. Don't forget that if you're on YouTube, leave your comments on there. Like and subscribe. Or like and subscribe. All right. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, don't forget that we're coming back on Sunday. Okay? Coming back on Sunday. Okay? And what we might do on Sunday, hopefully I can bring on a conference with Fred Hampton Jr. I hope that happens. Um, that would be very good to get his point of view about this film. Like I said, my brother also is saying that he's on a Zoom call with somebody else. What we wanted to do, though, we want to basically make sure that we get his reaction. That would be very important for us. Okay. Um, but I'm not going to play the trailer. Uh, let's do this, family. Let's see if we can basically get some reaction on for Sunday. Because I was going to bring on this other politician. She was going to be talking about her book and stuff like that, and how she ran for Congress or the Senate, I think it was. But we'll try to get her on as well. And also, we have other people coming on. So let's go ahead and see if we can reach back out to Fred Hampton Jr. Like I said, I know he's on a live with someone else. I would love to have been on that live as well to see what was going on, see what he thought about this. And ladies and gentlemen, but to conclude and wrap up for you all who are on YouTube and on Instagram, um, um, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button, share and subscribe. We're going to come back on Sunday. We're going to basically, if we could get Fred Hampton on and other people on to also share their opinions, we will then talk about this movie and what they thought about it. I'm going to actually watch the film myself. Like I told you, I wanted to just, I've been talking about this film. I did a commentary on it even before it came out, and they were just working on it. Okay. But I'm gonna tell you about certain things about this here. Be very careful when Hollywood casts a foreigner to play a foundational Black American in its story. Very careful, because what's going to happen, even if they have a Black person from the United States, Be very careful. You always have to go back and look at the actual film. Like I said, Billie Holiday, man, that chick was a writer. She basically did not give a damn about what the white supremacist was doing. She went to jail. They tried to set her. They did all kinds of things to this woman, but she was a writer, man. And that's the reason why we basically want to look out for our great heroes and sheroes who really stood up for us back in the civil rights era, whether they played an important role in the movie situation or music or whatever, or civil rights movement and stuff like that. They basically was writers. That's the reason why we celebrate Billie Holiday. We should be celebrating our brother Fred Hampton, Aretha Franklin, who was a great musician, Nina Simone. All of these were your. There's a lot of more. Sam Cooke, Michael Jackson, Prince. All of these people had to take on the music industry, and the Jewish people were basically involved in their death. I don't care what nobody say. We have to be very careful as to who is behind the closed doors. Like I said, with Billie Holiday, her Jewish manager, I still believe, played a role in her death. I don't believe she died in no whatever that disease they were saying that she died of. But we have to look at and protect our musicians. We have to protect our foundational Black American actors, writers, producers, musicians, heroes, sheroes, civil rights people. We have to protect them by any means necessary. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Lawyer Henderson Show. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, like and subscribe. We went off air on Blog Talk Radio as already. So we're glad that you tune in to talk with, to listen to the commentary. Join me Sunday as we continue to basically do a part 2 on the crisis of the Hollywood casting. You see, like I said, Hollywood have a casting crisis. We'll talk about it next Sunday.